welcome to Hangin With. I'm GW Pomichter. Thanks for logging on and tuning in. If you haven't already, go on down here and hit subscribe. If this is your first time, thanks for coming. Come back over and over and over again. We love it when you do that. Special shout out to our partners and sponsors over at Something Unique Magazine, Books, Chocolate, and Wine. The Florida Book News and Authors for Author. They're helping to share these videos like all over the web. Excellent. Or however they do that magic stuff that the internet does. And we're really grateful for that. Today we're here and we are hanging with Chris Kridler, a writer, a photographer, and y'all are going to love this, a storm chaser. So, see, we got it all in this interview. You've watched 47 other interviews to get here. So
I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, you're an author. We're gonna start there because we've done a lot of authors, and that's easy
Sure.
for me because I'm an author. So we'll start there. You have your series, which is essentially Storm Chaser. Is a Storm Chaser romance?
Well,
sort of. I mean,
it's a little bit cross-genre,
yeah.
which makes marketing somewhat challenging. I call them adventures. There's a strong romantic element in them.
Okay.
But there's also some satire. There's a lot of action and drama. So there's a lot going on.
That is really fantastic. I know in cinema, we talked off camera a little bit about things like Twister and the phenomenon that was. And in cinema, in places where it visually depicts, and in photography obviously, visually depicts storms and things like that, storm chasing was a big phenomenon.
Oh, yeah.
It spawned television shows, just a huge interest group.
Sure.
That started from a niche group and then went kind of mainstream. How are you finding it in literature?
It's interesting. There are more and more books out there featuring storm chasers, and it's just a naturally dramatic setting. I mean, you're faced with life-threatening storms. They're visually gorgeous. I get into describing them because I love them, and of course I'm a photographer too, so I'm very into the visuals. So yeah, it's a perfect literary subject. It really
now
is.
It's fiction, and we all know fiction is mostly true. It's the internet, bonjour. Okay, I mean it's all yeah. So, but no, and so how much of your storm chasing and your experiences make your way into your fiction?
I would say quite a bit of the storm chasing part does. The characters are all fictional, at least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
We believe you.
But really, there are always elements of the author in every character. I mean, everything from the female photographer in the first novel to the womanizing guy she ends up meeting, who actually goes on through the next two books.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so I mean, there's always the author is in every character.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But as far as the storms, a lot of the storms in the books are kind of inspired by storms I've seen, or if I haven't seen them in person, I've learned a lot about them.
What made you decide you wanted to write about it?
I
know you're a photographer, and I know you've been a photojournalist, and you've been around the writing and reporting community like the better part of your life. So what inspired you to say, look, I'm just in a novel?
Well, I mean,
that should be pretty cool.
I've been writing forever, and I wrote a few novels before I published these.
Okay.
So they just didn't get published.
They just
and they weren't about storm chasers. So it was a natural subject, and because I'm really obsessed with storm chasing, it seemed perfect.
Now, where did that come from? What was kind of drew you to storm chasing?
That's a really good question, because a lot of people who are into it, I mean, some maybe got hooked because they saw it in media, but some people survived tornadoes as kids. I think with me, I grew up in Pennsylvania, but there were a few times when we had to run to the basement because of tornado warnings, and then there was The Wizard of Oz, which is still maybe the best tornado ever filmed, even though it was made with a muslin sock.
So this is your version of Oz.
Fascinated, yeah.
You're in Oz.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to, live in the fictional world as well as, go chase storms. Because in the fictional world, of course, you can get the perfect storm anytime you want.
Well, anytime that a writer can put it together.
Right, and perfect in this case means, of course, disastrous for most people.
For most people, yeah. Now, and that's the other thing. As a storm chaser, one of the things that the side effects of the great things you get to see are the terrible things that you get to see, and that's got to take a toll.
Yeah,
I mean, it does. As a human and property and personal
sure. I mean,
cost.
you never ever want to see a tornado hit a house or a town. I mean, the ideal tornado is in the middle of a field. It's not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
and the other thing is, the tornadoes are going to happen whether we're there to observe them or not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as long as we respect life and property, give the emergency workers plenty of room to work, help out if we're the first ones on the scene, that's the way to go. I mean, I fortunately have not personally run across a tragedy in progress.
Oh,
I mean,
boy.
I've been either distant enough or, the tornado didn't do that kind of damage. So, Florida has more tornadoes per area than any other state.
I had no
Most
idea.
a week, but.
Until like 7 seconds ago, I didn't even know that. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing, and it's.
A shout out though to the forecasters, because really, I mean, there are a lot of people say, "Oh, I had no warning." Well, they might just not have been paying attention, because forecasters have been very, very good about issuing warnings, and not just that, but early in the day they'll issue outlooks that say, there's a high risk of severe storms today, and that's the kind of thing, especially out in Tornado Alley, where the media are very, very attuned to that. And so, if you're paying attention at all, you should at least look at the newspaper, listen to the radio. And,
something. Yeah. You're out there storm chasing and you're writing about this phenomenon.
Right.
How has technology helped our forecasters, and has it helped?
Oh, it's helped tremendously. I mean, you talk about hurricanes, in the old days, the only way you knew a hurricane was out at sea was because it ran over a ship or an island. Now we have satellites, and we have.
Oh man, I see that thing.
All kinds
I'm watching the Weather Channel the other day, because it's just a random thing that you do once in a while because you want to know what the weather's going to be. More in depth than 35
Right.
degrees colder than it was yesterday, which is just bizarre. It's winter in Florida, folks. Means I can't.
It's great.
Even the weatherman can't tell you what the weather's going to be tomorrow. He can try. He does try. He really does. But the reality is that we just swing. Winter for us is just a swing ride.
It is.
It is nice and 75 one day, and then 52 the next, and then 75 the next day. So, but the interesting thing is you're scanning the Weather Channel, and the satellite comes over and says that there's a hurricane that just spun off the coast of Africa. Here I'm sitting in Florida. It's really? Do I need to know that? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, if I can know that, I do need to know that. But it is. So you, I understand that one of you're a journalist.
Yes.
You worked here locally, Florida Today. We talked about that off camera a little bit. That was my first.
And a couple
news
other
gig.
newspapers before that.
And I understand you worked up north in journalism before
Baltimore
that.
Sun.
Baltimore Sun. Okay.
Charlotte Observer.
And I understand that one of your storm photographs, when you're chasing photos, actually made it in the Journal of Meteorology. Had a cover. That was yours.
Yeah, that was cool. Actually, they had a contest, and that was one
cool.
of my favorite storms.
It was a great picture. We saw both the cover, which is awesome. We're going to spin that up here.
Oh, cool.
So we did. We saw actually the cover, and then we actually went to your website. We saw the raw photo.
Okay.
And just what?
There's that magazine, and then I was really excited because that same picture was featured on the cover of the atmospheric science textbook, which a lot of meteorologist students.
Hey, that's
use.
just cool.
And I'm such a geek. I was like, that is the coolest.
No, that is just cool. The photos are great, and like I said,
Thank you.
it's as close as I ever want to get to some of these storms. Now I understand you also have a lot of local photography in terms of the weather and
Oh
that
yeah,
kind of thing.
one of the reasons I moved to Florida, it was to work for Florida Today, which I did for like 11 years. But
awesome.
It was also because of the storms. And there's great lightning storms here, and we also have beautiful shelf clouds, which Arcus clouds. These are some of my most dramatic photos. Florida gets those all the time.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of drawn around by the weather, and then that's just fantastic. So let's real quick let's go back over here to Funnel Vision, because we should actually highlight some of the art. Now, throughout the show, guys, keep an eye back here. You're going to see a lot of art that we're going to grab from the website.
Oh, great.
We want to show some of your photography off because it's amazing.
Thank you.
I was loving life. It's like 2 hours of like it's being in a candy store. Look at that. Ooh. Anyway, but we're going to talk about Funnel Vision a little bit. We talked about your inspiration for the book, so just let's real quick, like we were reading the back of a book or the back of a series. Tell us a little bit just about the series and what can people expect from the series? A little bit of romance, a little bit of storms.
Yeah.
We got a great leading character. Are we following a bunch of group of people around, or how are we doing this?
It's an ensemble cast,
Great.
but each book sort of has a couple of protagonists, I would say. In the first book, Judy is this photographer who's suffered a tornado when she was a kid, and it really affected the way she thinks about the world and about storms, but she is a storm chaser, and she's obsessed with storms. she meets Jack, who is a meteorology PhD candidate, and he's also a storm researcher, tornado researcher, and he's just one of these guys who wants to get as close as possible. And
Okay.
and he's kind of bad news where women are concerned, and so you learn more about that as the book goes on.
So he's got to get an adrenaline junkie on multiple fronts here.
Yeah.
I mean, he wants to get
totally.
as close as possible to the most dangerous thing he can
Addictive
find.
behavior, I would say.
And then he chases storms. No.
Yeah, right.
So,
and then there are other characters. There's a tour operator who just makes one screw up after another, who's pretty funny. And,
Okay.
and he ends up being in the next couple of books.
You have a great ironic sense of humor, by the way. For those of you who are going to read the backs of the covers and go to the website and those kinds of things, you probably should be aware that the tour group in the Storm Chaser series is the Thor's Tours. So you don't have to be any older than 4 years old to know where that's going, because it's Thor's Tours. So you get that's nice. That's a great.
Well, you know, there are a bunch of storm tours now, storm chasing tours. And in fact, in 1997, I've been around that long. This will be my 20th year storm chasing. But in '97, I took one of these tours, Cloud 9 Tours, which was a great tour. At the time, it was like me and a dozen Germans who had won a Twister video sweepstakes. So they really weren't that into the storm. But, you know, I got a really sort of front seat experience to what storm chasing was like, and that's how I got hooked. So that was an example of a good tour, but as the years have gone on, there's been a proliferation of tours, and occasionally you hear a story about a mistake or two that some of these tours have made, and so I just kind of blew that up into comedy with
Is there
tours.
I mean, it's the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
And all 6 people that watch this, I do want them to know, storm chasing is dangerous.
Absolutely.
It is. This is.
And just because it looks safe on TV, and there's TV shows that make it look it's easy,
it's a
very
fascinating.
dangerous.
It's a fascinating study, but it's dangerous and it takes skill. And don't. Please, if you're out there on the World Wide Web right now and you're watching this and you're fascinated and you read the books and you're like, wow, this is so fantastic and it's adventurous, please don't hop in your Chevy and head out to Tornado Alley, because it's not a safe place to be, and you really need to learn what you're doing.
Yeah,
and
you need to
you've
learn
been
what you're
doing this.
And
You've been
I
doing
think
this a
the
long
point
time.
comes across in the books, because
That they make
people who
these-
don't know what they're doing get into big trouble.
And so that's an important thing. It's kind of our version of don't try this at home.
Right.
Is read the books and enjoy your fictional ride, and if you have an interest and you have a passion, then call somebody who's been doing it and learn how to do it, and do it safely and properly, and don't put yourself in harm's way.
The media, and I mean, we're part of the media, but a lot of these storm documentaries, chasers jokingly call them storm porn, because they're all about how extreme everything is, and things being destroyed.
Yeah.
And that's not why I'm out there, to see things destroyed. I'm in it for the beauty, but because of that, there's this extreme mentality that I actually satirize in the second book, Tornado Pinball, where Jack joins a media team as a consultant trying to launch a human tornado probe into a tornado.
Because that sounds not so smart.
Not so smart, not so safe. But I would not be surprised if a year or two down the road somebody actually tries it.
You have a short documentary film that is Chasing Reality.
Right.
And so tell us a little bit about that. I know that locally you did very well at the Melbourne Independent Film Festival when the documentary came out.
Yeah, it was nice. It won Best Documentary that year.
That's fantastic. And what was that like, doing a documentary film on a subject that you obviously love?
Sure. Well, and it was almost a lark, because of that whole extreme thing, I wanted to show what chasing is really like. So chasing is driving for thousands and thousands of miles and not necessarily seeing anything. There are a lot of busts, basically. It's like baseball game. It's 5 minutes of excitement packed into 3 hours. I mean, there's just, not that much excitement, but when it happens,
Hey, she just said
fantastic.
that, guys, I got a new business. I want to be a hot dog vendor on storm chasing rides. Because it appears that there's lots of folks out there.
There's a food truck in book 3.
Really?
Which
Awesome.
I made up. I totally made
No,
up.
that's amazing.
But
though.
he
That's
goes
fantastic.
around and caters to chasers.
This is America.
Somebody should do that.
Now that you've said it, somebody's out there going, dude, I can
Yeah,
do
somebody
that.
should
I
totally
so
do that.
So, do you have anything that you're working on right now in the series? Are you working on any new novels? Are you working on any access to get any great photos? You're like an artist all the way around. So what are you working on right now?
Well, I've just released a digital box set of the trilogy.
Awesome.
So you can get that for a really good price.
Awesome.
And the Storm Seekers trilogy is what I'm calling it.
There's going to be more of the series.
Yes, I have some ideas. I haven't started writing those yet.
Okay. Now I did have one just kind of fun question for you because, like I said, we're doing our deep dive here. We're
Sure.
trying to find out a little bit about you. We saw a lot of photography online.
Mm-hmm.
I've got just one thing to say. Cow
Yeah.
everywhere. What's the cow? Tell me about the cow real quick.
Well, you know, in the movie Twister, 1996, they're chasing along and they see a cow flying by and they're like, cow?
Yeah.
Flies back, another cow? I think it was the same one. I mean,
Yeah.
chasers quote Twister all the time.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's the cow thing.
Okay.
And I actually had a TV producer ask me if I had video of a flying cow, and I said, no, I'd probably be rich if I had video of a flying cow.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
not funny to the cows. Yeah.
But, you know, it is for the rest of us. It is kind of, it is. And I know that was the first thing I thought of. I saw the cow and we were talking back then and we said, hey, we got to ask about the cow.
Right, so
And the
I
first
have
thing,
a cow.
That's the first thing I said was cow.
I have a wind-up
because-
cow. I collect wind-up toys.
Okay.
And he travels with me.
He's featured
He
in
or
many
she
photos.
travels with me, and
He
yeah,
is-
I post little photos of his experiences on the road as I'm chasing. So.
Well, that's terrific. So that's your version. That's your.
Yeah,
you
he's
have
my little traveling companion and
and
commentator.
And he gets to go around and see all the storms and great
Right.
things. And
And he's really offended when I take him into the big Texan steak ranch in Amarillo. Yeah.
Okay, so we can find you online.
Mhm.
You have a website,
Sure.
if you would please.
ChrisKridler.com. Also,
Outstanding.
SkyDiary.com is my sort of legacy storm chasing site. That's the one I first started. There are lots of links back and forth. Easy
That's
to find.
fantastic. So go to those websites and check out some stuff. I take it we can find you at bookstores online.
Absolutely, all the ones you can think about.
All the ones you can think of. You
Yeah.
got Barnes & Noble, you got Amazon, please, hit her up.
iBooks, Kobo.
iBooks, Kobo, yeah, they're all there,
So,
man.
yeah.
It's great. So get out there and grab a great storm chaser human drama. I'm not even going to call it a romance, right? Because it really is. There's so many characters and it's so much of an ensemble piece that this is just a great storm chaser human drama story.
Adventure.
It's
Yeah.
adventure. Take an adventure and go check out this series. And so, get out there and do that. I told repeatedly that we have to wrap it up. I have been hanging here with Chris Kridler.
Yes, indeed.
Hey, I did that right. I did that right without the card. Ladies, I did that right without the card. Ha. Anyway, we've been hanging with Chris Kridler, the author of, among other things, Funnel Vision. And this is part of the Storm Seekers series. And that includes Tornado Pinball, which you can grab. Leah, let's go ahead and do this. And Zap Bang.
Yes.
You can find it. That's easy. You just Zap Bang.
Zap Bang.
Google Zap Bang.
Oh, yeah.
If it comes up any other way,
It's all pretty easy to
please leave a comment here and tell us what it came up as, okay? So, but go check out the Storm Seekers series by Chris Kridler. That about wraps us up here. Again, thank you very much. Something Unique Magazine, they've been sharing this since we first got started. That is, they just called it, let's do it. I mean, okay, fine. And Books, Chocolate, and Wine, fantastic group. If you ever get a chance, do an author takeover on Books, Chocolate, and Wine. I spent the busiest 2 hours of my life rotating between 3 different computers trying to keep up with the fans. They have questions. They want to know how you write. They want to know everything about you.
Excellent.
Going over Books, Chocolate, and Wine. Great folks. They have a blog. They're on Facebook. Authors for Authors, right here in Brevard County. Dr. Valerie Allen, thank you so much. You shared the videos. You invited us to the authors community.
Yep, she's
You've
great.
welcomed us to this community. And I'm grateful for that. And of course, the Florida Book News. Lou Belcher, thank you very much for sharing these videos. If you haven't already, again, get on down there and subscribe. In the meantime, if you aren't getting this on YouTube, then I have no idea how you know what I'm saying. But go on over to iTunes and check us out in the podcast. And while you're there, go ahead and hit up some links for me. Go on over to our swag store. I got hanging with hats and swag and t-shirts and all kinds of stuff like that. In order to travel around and see these great authors, I have to eat. So, go buy a t-shirt, I get to eat, then I can go talk to more authors and more artists and more creative people and share them with you. I'm G.W. Pomichter. We're hanging with Chris Kridler. You've been hanging with us. So remember, subscribe. Log on, tune in, see who we're hanging with next.